My name is Roy, and today we are looking at a moment that could reshape the balance of power in the Middle East and possibly the world. The reported killing of Iran's supreme leader is not just another headline. It is a shockwave, a moment that raises one terrifying question. What happens when the most powerful man in one of the most volatile regions on Earth is suddenly gone? Right now, the world is trying to understand what exactly has happened. Reports suggest that Iran's supreme leader has been killed in a series of coordinated strikes linked to escalating tensions between the United States, Israel, and Iran. At the center of this unfolding crisis is former U.S. President Donald Trump, who has openly supported aggressive military actions and even called for regime change in Iran. This is not just about one leader, it is about power, influence, and the future of an entire region. To understand the weight of this moment, you need to understand who the supreme leader is. In Iran, this is not just a political figure. This is the highest authority in the country, above the president, above the parliament. The supreme leader controls the military, the judiciary, and key state institutions. Removing such a figure is not just a political act, it is a structural earthquake. The situation did not begin overnight. For years, tensions between the United States and Iran have been building. Disputes over nuclear programs, regional influence, and sanctions have kept both nations in a fragile and often hostile relationship. But what we are seeing now goes far beyond pressure or negotiation. This is direct confrontation. In recent developments, the United States, in coordination with Israel, carried out targeted strikes inside Iran. These actions reportedly happened without formal congressional approval, which has already triggered political backlash inside the United States itself. Critics, including both Democrats and some Republicans, argue that this could drag the country into another prolonged conflict. Supporters, however, claim it is necessary for global security and stability. Then came the turning point, the announcement that Iran's supreme leader was dead. This is where the tension rises sharply, because removing a leader like this does not automatically end a regime. In fact, it can do the opposite. Iran's power structure is not built around a single individual alone. It is a network. A system supported heavily by institutions like the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, also known as the IRGC. And right now, all signs suggest that this force is preparing to respond. The immediate question becomes, who takes control? From a constitutional standpoint, authority may temporarily fall to the president and governing bodies like the Assembly of Experts. But in reality, power often shifts to those who control force. And in Iran, that means the Revolutionary Guards. These are not passive observers. They are deeply loyal to the system, and they have already signaled one thing clearly: retaliation is coming.
This is where the situation becomes dangerous, because retaliation does not have to be direct. It could take many forms: military strikes, cyber attacks, disruption of global energy supplies, even indirect actions through allied groups across the region. The Middle East is already one of the most complex and fragile regions in the world. A single spark can ignite something much larger. And there is another layer to this crisis: oil. A significant portion of the world's oil passes through the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow passage is one of the most critical energy choke points on Earth. Experts estimate that around 30 to 40% of global oil shipments move through this route. If Iran decides to block or disrupt this passage, the impact would be immediate. Prices would rise, markets would react, and economies, especially in developing regions, would feel the pressure almost instantly. Countries in Asia, for example, rely heavily on Middle Eastern oil. A disruption here would not just affect fuel prices. It could slow economic growth, increase inflation, and create instability in multiple markets at once. But the impact is not just economic. It is also political. Inside the United States, this move raises serious questions. Donald Trump had previously positioned himself as a leader who would avoid foreign wars. Yet now the U.S. finds itself directly involved in a high-risk confrontation with Iran. This contradiction is already creating division among his supporters and critics alike. Some see strength, others see recklessness. Globally, the response has been cautious, almost tense. Iran is not isolated. It has relationships with major powers like China and Russia. So far, neither has taken direct action, but that does not mean they will remain silent. The longer this situation continues, the higher the chance that more players could become involved. And when that happens, the scale of the conflict changes completely. There's also a deeper pattern that cannot be ignored. This is not the first time a major foreign leader has been targeted in such a way. Earlier actions involving other countries have raised concerns about whether this represents a new kind of foreign policy, one that relies less on diplomacy and more on sudden, forceful moves. Some analysts describe it as shock strategy, unpredictable, fast, and designed to destabilize opponents before they can react. But here's the problem. Iran is not a small or weak state. It has a strong internal structure, regional influence, and a population that may rally in response to external threats. Removing a leader does not guarantee collapse. In many cases, it strengthens resistance. And that is the hidden danger. Because what might have been intended as a decisive move could instead trigger a prolonged and unpredictable conflict, one that spreads beyond borders, one that pulls in allies, one that affects not just governments, but millions of ordinary people. Right now, the world is standing at a crossroads. On one side, there's the possibility of escalation, retaliation, regional war, economic shock. On the other side, there is the slim chance of de-escalation, negotiation, containment. But the truth is, no one knows which direction this will take. What we do know is this: the death of a figure as powerful as Iran's supreme leader is not an end. It is a beginning of uncertainty, of shifting power, of decisions that will shape the future in ways we cannot yet fully see. And in moments like this, history is not written slowly. It moves fast, sometimes too fast. The question now is not just what happened. The real question is, what happens next?